Yedidya's first rescue was a harsh lesson in how critical a factor environment plays in any rescue operation. Yet it is the steep canyons that hug the shores of the Dead Sea that get most pilots' attention. The majority of their rescues are done here. This is actual footage of an effort to save a hiker who plunged almost 100 feet to the bottom of a canyon. For the pilots of the squadron, rescues like these are fraught with danger. The canyons are extremely narrow and channel treacherous winds. The fate of the crew and of the rescue is dependent on the ability of the co-pilots to work in tandem. One flying the chopper, the other watching the canyon walls. One wrong move could spell disaster. The life of the wounded hiker, on the other hand, was dependent on the skills of the 669 rescue soldiers on the ground. He was dehydrated and unconscious. Time was of the essence. Within minutes, he could have died. That this wounded hiker survived at all was due solely to the carefully orchestrated teamwork of the entire crew. It is this kind of careful coordination between all the elements of the rescue team that Yanni and Yedidya have been practicing all morning. Their ability to work as a team could literally mean life or death. But a far deeper bond than the mechanics of flying binds the two men, for Yedidya has a very personal reason for his implicit faith in his co-pilot. Quite simply, Yanni saved the life of Yedidya's son. Like many serious accidents, it all began in otherwise idyllic conditions.
It was a Friday afternoon. I took a short trip with a friend. We were on top of the hill and my oldest son, Ortzion, then 3 years old, was sitting next to me in the car. We got out of the car and Ortzion stayed in it. We walked away no more than 10 meters just to look at the view, and then suddenly I heard a click.
Within seconds, Yedidya understood the meaning of the ominous click. The 3-year-old had just released the handbrake.
I saw the car slowly starting to roll downhill. Ortzion had his head out of the window, looking at me as if he understood that he had done something wrong, waiting for me to get him out of there, waiting for me to help him.
Yedidya fought desperately to stop the accelerating car, but to their horror, they saw the car leaping into the air, rolling upside down. They heard the sickening sound of a crash, and then silence. By the time they reached the bottom, the child was unconscious. Ifat, Yedidya's wife, was the first to be called.
Suddenly I received a call. Yedidya was on the other end of the line. He told me not to worry, but Ortzion has rolled down the hill with the car and he was unconscious.
Somewhere in my mind, I knew that a rescue chopper could come and help. I know the people, I know the squadron, it is my profession. I knew that the easiest thing to do was to call the squadron and ask them for help.
Lieutenant Colonel Sharon was the squadron commander at the time. The call came as he was on his way home.
From the moment I understood the severity of the child's injuries, I decided to take decisions that are not normally made by squadron commander.
Sharon decided to send a pilot first and deal with the bureaucracy later. As fate would have it, it fell on Yanni to go up.
We spoke to him, and he told us very matter of fact that his son was trapped in a car that had rolled over the hill, suffering head injuries. He asked us to come as soon as possible. It was clear to everybody that we had to go without asking any questions.
To Yedidya, suddenly on the receiving end of a rescue mission, the 20-minute flight seemed like an eternity.
And then suddenly I heard the chopper approaching. I could talk to them through the walkie-talkie, and I asked who the pilot was, and then I realized it was Yoni.
I landed and I saw Yedidya running around covered with blood. I said to myself, I hope that we would not see the sights we are used to in a rescue.
When the doors closed and we were about to take off, I suddenly had a minute for myself because it was going to take at least 10 minutes to the nearest hospital. It was an awful feeling to sit inside the helicopter, not up front in the pilot's seat.
There was a very uncomfortable atmosphere in the chopper. After all, this is the colleague's son, someone from the squadron.
I turned around and looked at this little person and realized this was my son lying there. There is no doubt that the rescue saved my son's life. For me, he's a gift. That's what I call him. I call him a gift child. After the accident, I said that normally you receive a child after birth. I received my child at 3 years old.
For Yanni and Yedidya, the mission is over. Each returned to their different lives. Yedidya to his family and the upcoming Sabbath. An hour's nerve-wracking drive to his wilderness home. Yanni to prepare for another night on the town. But while they go home, there are others here for whom the base is already home, like Major Ron. Living at the base makes him uniquely qualified to go on weekend alert, a routine he has gone through countless times the past year. A quiet weekend at home, studying for his degree at Tel Aviv University, or spending time with his wife as they prepare for the birth of their first child. It was a quiet weekend like this, when a sudden storm building over the Judean hills thrust Ron into a struggle with death that forced him to make one of the hardest decisions in his life. The blue sky and the warm day can be misleading. Within minutes, a shower in the Judean hills 30 miles from here can transform this dry canyon into a gushing river, cascading from a height of 3,000 feet and sweeping away anything that stands in its path. Such flash floods can sever main highways, stranding travelers, or worse, washing them to their deaths. The most vulnerable are the hikers, lured by the warm weather into the stunning canyons. Within minutes, they can find themselves in the midst of a flash flood, fighting for their lives. To respond to such emergencies, the Israeli Air Force established the 15-minute alert as the core of its rescue strategy. Pilots like Ron must be prepared to get off the ground within 15 minutes of an alert. Ron lives on a base with his wife Noah, who is pregnant with their first child. The airfield just outside his front door might be ideal for him, but the prospect of her husband flying into combat or dangerous rescues is an added pressure for Noah.
It always starts with an alarm and then a message on his Motorola. I pause for a second, and then, if it is for him, it's upsetting. You count on an evening together, and then he disappears.
Deep below the city streets, this high-tech nerve center is the operational heart of all search and rescue operations in Israel. Any request for help comes through here to the desk of Sergeant Asaf, the dispatcher, before being passed on to the rescue units.
The decision as to which helicopter to send is taken by me, along with which base it will be launched from. They're scattered around the whole country. And also if the crew will consist of paramedics or medics, doctors, 669 soldiers, and if so, how many. You have to be very familiar with the capabilities of each of the helicopters.
Unaware of a torrential rainstorm in the Judean hills 3,000 feet above them, a group of hikers prepare to ascend the cliffs of the Qumran. In 1947, the caves of the Qumran were the setting for one of the most dramatic finds in archaeology, the Dead Sea Scrolls. But before the night was out, they would provide the backdrop for a drama of a different kind.